I've already signed into Canvas, and I clicked on Files, English 6, and I'm going to the third 9 weeks to find the 3 levels of reading lesson. So I would click on the third 9 weeks. I'm going to come over here, and the 3 levels of reading is toward the end. And remember, these are in order of how they would appear in your module and how you're going to be teaching them. And here is the 3 levels of reading, number 22. But before I open that up, I want to access it on the big picture as always. I like to see where it's going to fall within the 9 weeks. And of course, the most important part for me is how many days have been allotted for the lesson. I like to go ahead and get an idea. It's easier for me when I look at the big picture. So the 3 levels of reading will be in week 8, so toward the end of the 9 weeks. And you're going to get 1, 2, 3 full days for this lesson. It's a pretty big lesson, and it's one of my favorites. Okay, so we're going to close that out and go down to the 3 levels of reading to open up our teacher notes. Remember, it's really important to read those. And this isn't a lesson, this is an example of why, because there's a reference sheet that you could go ahead and have printed or written out on poster chart paper to have hanging in your room as a reference. And you wouldn't know that if you had not read the teacher notes. So we're going to go through those for the 3 levels of reading using Charles. About this lesson will introduce readers to the 3 levels of reading. These levels are close reading strategies that will help them draw inferences, make conclusions, and look beyond the plot for deeper meaning about the work that is being read. As a whole class and with guidance from the teacher, students will complete the concentric circles with a given excerpt from the novel. Here are your materials and resource list. So in order to complete this, you're going to need the student activities that are on pages 7 through 9 of this document, butcher paper or large circles drawn on the board for whole group use, colored pencils, crayons, markers, templates for circles, which is optional and only needed if the work is to be completed in small groups on butcher paper. But I would like to just say this, and once you see the concentric circles, this will make a little bit more sense. My students take a lot of time to draw the circles out, and that's really not the important part, but they will spend 20 minutes just trying to get the circles perfected. So I like to go ahead and have that printed for them or drawn on the butcher paper for them. But in this case for today, because we're virtual, we're going to be completing our concentric circles on Google Draw. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. So here are your assessments that you could be using. Group discussions can be used as a formative assessment. If students are capable of completing the work in small groups or independently, the final concentric circle can be graded as a summative assessment. So for teacher suggestions, you have activity 1 that asks for you to print this or have this this sheet here as a reference in your classroom. So I'm not going to go through this because we will go through all of this in the actual lesson in just a minute. We'll do that together. And then here is activity 2 with the step-by-step direction. So in activity 2, it's kind of a we do. So as a whole class, you're reading a small excerpt from where the red fern grows, and you're going to complete those circles together as a whole group. You're going to just model for your students how to complete the concentric circles, and we're going to be doing that together in just a minute. And then here's activity 3, which is where they will do this in small groups or either in pairs, or you may have them work individually, but I'm going to suggest small groups or pairs just because this is the first time that they will have done this. They're going to be doing the concentric circles on a short story, Charles. They will have already read this story, but they're going to come back to it to complete activity 3. So we're going to do these activities together today, and you will just make note of any issues you have and let us know how we can help you during our next meeting.